everyone, I'm Laura Hill and today I'm talking to the copper queen herself, Rachael Lomax.
Hey!
Hi Rachel!
Hi, thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. How are you today?
Yes, I'm good. Got a nice little day off today, so it's lovely to spend it with you.
I'm so happy I'm spending it with you too. This is amazing.
Yay!
This actually is the first time I've recorded content like this, and it's something
Amazing.
I've wanted to do for forever. And I'm so
Yeah.
excited you're the person that I'm doing it with because I'm a huge fan of yours.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm a massive fan of yours, so.
I would really like to start at the beginning because
Mhm.
I feel like your journey is fascinating. And I feel like from the outside looking in,
Mhm.
the word maybe overnight success. Do you think that's too strong? That
Um,
suddenly,
yeah, I don't
that
know, maybe.
suddenly, suddenly you were the biggest thing in copper hair and the authority on copper hair. And for me personally, I went from overnight not really having anybody I could look to for copper
Mhm.
hair advice to stalking you
Mhm.
incessantly.
Oh, oh, awesome. That makes my day.
So that I want to dig into.
Yeah.
Because when you see someone that, like, what you would say is an overnight success or exploded onto the scene,
Mhm.
you think, well, how did they do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd really like to start there.
Mhm.
So can you take me back
Yeah.
however many years and tell me how you started in the hairdressing industry?
So I started. I actually didn't do it straight from school. Actually, I back in the day, 1997. I kind of went into it. I qualified like around the age of 19, or I kind of went into it sort of more later because I knew in my heart of hearts if I was going to do it, this was going to be a lifelong thing because it was always a passion. It actually is in my family. My uncle on my mum's side, he actually had quite a few barbershops, him and his dad, and so it's always been obviously in my family. But I think it was one day I was working in Etam, and I said, then I just went, I can't do this. I literally need to be in hairdressing. So I literally marched myself down to a local salon and asked if they had any apprenticeships. And I'm based in Norfolk now, but I was in Suffolk. So I got a job as an apprentice, and I literally loved it. I loved it. I loved the fact that I was so hands on, but then I still got that time out to go to college to learn everything there was to know about the background, the science, obviously. Colour straight away was my passion. Within a year in my salon, I'd qualified everything on colour. I literally just had to finish with my cutting. Wasn't always my favourite part. So that's kind of where I started.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you did salon and college at the same time?
Yes. So we have model days in the salon, and then I would go to college one day a week where I'd just go and learn all my theory, all the background stuff. We still did clients and things in a salon session in the afternoon. But yeah, it was really, really good. And I loved it because you had that blend, because I was never really academic. That was not my thing.
Yeah. And I think that happens quite a lot that we get put off. We get put off learning, and
Mhm.
we'll go into how much you know about the science now. But I
Mm.
think we do get put off learning at school by teachers if we're
Yeah.
not academic. And
Mhm.
then it happens in our industry that suddenly people go, actually I am into science. I
Yeah,
am academic.
yeah.
But you're just not school science and school academic.
No, no. I have this conversation with my clients all the time when we talk about maths and English and stuff. And I always say to them, like, if they talk to me about mils and grams and stuff like that, 100%, I'm all over that. But you start
Mm.
talking to me about fractions and decimals, I'm like, no, you've lost me now. And literally, if it was relating to what I did, 100%, I'd be all over that.
You know it
Yeah,
inside and out.
yeah.
So then, where did you go after your first salon in college? What was the journey after that?
So I went into being working in a salon, and worked in a salon probably for well, I did two different salons for a couple of years. So I went into one, and that's really where I got the bug for going on education, because I met a L'Oreal rep, and she was amazing and inspired me to go on L'Oreal Colour Keys classes. So I worked my way through all of those. And I just got the bug for education so bad. I loved it so much, and I just went, I can see myself doing this. This is like what I love. And then from there, obviously, I worked in a few salons, and then I decided, like 4 years later, I went freelance. I worked in quite a few salons, getting different experiences, and I never really enjoyed that kind of experience. So I kind of felt I loved colour so much, and every time I learned a different colour, I kind of liked to use my own interpretation. So I found freelance was the freedom that I had to be able to push myself. But then it throws you completely on your own. So you've got nobody else there. So again, I took myself on loads of education.
That's amazing. It feels like education is what's carrying you through your journey.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because from going from not really loving education to in the school academic side of stuff to suddenly finding a passion for education in a completely different way. And I, through the whole way along, I always said, and obviously when I did my level 2 and level 3, I had these three goals, and I set these goals, and actually they have followed me through my career, and achieving them as I go. And one of them is going to be a lifelong goal, because it's always going to be something I'm going to need to do, and that's making sure that I stay on top of my game, and I'm always upgrading myself, making sure I can be the best that I can be for everyone, clients, students, that sort of thing.
That's amazing. So these three goals, so you
Yep.
set them when you were doing your NVQ?
Yeah.
So when you were at college, right
Yeah.
at the beginning, you
Yes.
set, and what made you set those goals?
It was a question that the teacher asked you at the beginning of your level 3. I think it was when we did the level 3. Level 2, we kind of had an idea of what we wanted to do, but I think level 3, it just took you that further. They're like, so where do you see yourself? What are your main things? What do you want out of your career, kind of thing? And I set that, again, I wanted to be the best that I could be. And then it was, I'd like my own salon, and then I wanted to be an educator or have my own training academy. They were my three things. And this was when I was like 19 that I set these goals, and I've made the steps as I've gone along. So from obviously working freelance, I got to a point where I did outgrow my round. Like, I got really restricted. I couldn't do any more in the driving time. So I took on my salon, which I've been in for 15 years, 16 years this year. I took on my salon, and then whilst working in the salon, I did my degree in education. So I actually trained to be a teacher.
No
Um,
way.
yeah, so I did my teacher degree, and then I actually did my assessor's award. So I have got all my teaching qualifications, which is kind of baffles me, because as of recent times I've learned I've got ADHD, and the academic side of stuff was always really difficult. So to get then the degree in education, I was like, I can't believe I've actually achieved this, because it's like amazing milestone. So
That's
yes,
amazing. That's so cool. So not only have you done all the education in like the colour specialist side, then
yes,
you've also done all the education to be able to teach people. So
yes.
that's amazing for someone who didn't get on well with education.
No.
Just goes to show, doesn't it, how incredibly smart you are
I
and
don't know how.
how
I think I just wing it. I I think it's just sometimes it's like you get a little gap or I feel like I get this little gap in my brain that suddenly I'm like, oh, I must know this somehow. And I do push myself to do the research where possible. And I think the thing that I struggled the most was finding the philosopher, because you obviously learn philosophy and you learn how people teach in different ways, and I kind of like them all for their own specific reason. And I think this is one of the things that kind of blows my mind. And I like to learn from lots of different people, so it's obviously very hard for me to go, right, that's the one I love, but you have to pick that out. It's bonkers. But I think that's where that, because I'm brand neutral, I think that's where it comes in, because every brand is passionate about a different thing, and everything is different. So like my education that I did when I was freelance, I did Sassoon's education, I did Saks education, I did L'Oreal education, then I took myself and I did the L'Oreal the Redken degree, I did all Redken's classes. So I think it's important to not be hell-bent on one specific way of education. I think it's very important to be open-minded.
I love that. I love that. I love that you learnt philosophy in your teaching degree. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's really good, and actually I'm still really interested in it. I just can't have it in masses. But I found like little nugget books that I will pick up, and I think, oh, I want to do a bit of further reading to kind of think outside the box. And I have a book called The Divine Code, so I read a lot about understanding about pi and um, placement and geometry really fascinates me. I'd like to go into that a little bit more into detail, because we use that a lot in hairdressing, and I think people don't realize actually we are very smart, and the stuff that we do, the reason things are very divine and beautiful is because we've like smashed out these placements and stuff, but actually it's science and math and stuff we don't realize we're doing all the time.
Yeah. There is that amazing Einstein quote that has always stuck with me where he says, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will always think it's an idiot.
Yeah,
And
I
I
love that.
think that's how the intelligence in hairdressing is so different to
Yeah.
school intelligence, but it's
Yes.
like emotional intelligence is
Hmm.
completely different from school
Yep.
intelligence. But you're like if I, like this list that I'm hearing from you is like philosophy, geography, you know about pi. I have no idea what that is. You know all the science of color. You know how to teach people, which is such a hard skill
Mm.
to actually be able to. There's this thing that Chris Moody says is he says most people when they educate, they just throw a load of shit at the wall and hope something sticks.
Yeah.
Whereas a really good educator,
Hmm.
it is connecting with the other person,
Yeah.
and that information you're giving is landing
Hmm.
and they're taking on, and you are, the point of education is to actually educate another
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
not to stand and preach your
Hmm.
knowledge.
Yeah.
It's about that connection. You have to get
Yeah.
into that person's head. That's incredible. And you've done all of this. You also had a diagnosis of ADHD as well.
Yeah, so I only got the diagnosis not this December, the December before, so it's very new, but everything just fell into place when I got it, and actually friends were like, yeah, there's no surprise there. So and it's so funny because everyone just takes me on face value. I'm just like, I am bonkers. I can be very loud, and I'm definitely quirky. But and I just embrace it, and I think it's trying to. I think the main thing is the hyper focus, and it's getting it into channeling it into the one thing. And I think obviously going into lockdown and stuff, I think realistically that's where it really enabled me to channel everything, because I was able to stop, because like that it was very hard actually for a lot of people and myself specifically, as well, because I just found like I just suddenly had to stop. Well, my brain doesn't do that. So now what? So I went on and I just decided to do loads of lives and educate my clients in everything that I had. And I think that kind of helped me to then take my career to then the next level. And that's when the education kind of started. And that was like, oh, maybe I can do this, because this is the goal that I've had like the whole time. But it was learning how to do it, because I did teach for a period of time at the local school, hair and beauty, and I just didn't enjoy it because they weren't allowing us to teach practical. It had to be theory and gross domestic product and all of that stuff. And I just felt like I'd gone back to school, and I just went, no, no, this isn't the education for me. No, 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 no. And I think it's quite brave to do something like that and go, no, actually, this isn't what I want. And I then realised educating for myself is definitely the road to go down.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things I want to ask you. So
Yeah.
your 3 goals.
Yes.
Actually, no, let's circle back, because I do want to ask you what ADHD looks like to you and your learning and your teaching. Because when we were talking earlier, you said about feeling like you had 10 tabs open in your
Yeah.
brain. So if anyone's listening to this and they may have ADHD, or they have a diagnosis of ADHD, that it might be a nice relatable thing
Yeah.
for them to hear, for you, who's someone who's very high up in education and our industry, how that plays into your journey, being
Yeah.
educated, working as a hairdresser, and being an educator.
Yeah. It's finding strategies, I think. It's knowing the strategies that help you to manage how you do things. Don't get me wrong, occasionally I have the odd ball fall, because that we're human, and we do. Mine's normally when I'm on a journey and I'm hyper focused on one thing and everything is going well, and then something's thrown into the works, then another thing's thrown into the works, and then that's when I struggle. But it's realizing that that's happening, and then getting support from people that you know to help you manage that back to your strategy. So I think having a strategy of where you want to go and goals as well, and a plan, I think is essential. And
Yeah.
having the right people around you is also key. So anyone having ADHD, 100% find your niche, because having your niche helps you focus and helps you realize, okay, I can actually do this and I can focus on the one thing that I want to do. but there's still all the things that you learn in hairdressing along the way. You still need those things. The same, I'm a copper specialist, but I still need to balayage, I still need to global tint, I still need to root melt, I still need to lighten sometimes in areas. So you still do all those things. It's not that you're not doing that. So for me, having that niche, having a strategy and a plan is key, when I think, and being not afraid to kind of go outside the plan, because that's also okay.
Yeah. I love that. That's like Rachel's top tips.
Yeah.
Can we go into your plan? Because when you were saying earlier that you wrote down these 3 goals at college, to
Yeah.
be the best you can be, to own your own salon, and to be an educator,
Mm-hmm.
that's amazing. I have not had a plan until recent years.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, during lockdown, my boss said to me, I'm amazed you don't have goals. Like, you seem like the person who should have goals. And I thought, oh, so now I have goals. But
Yeah.
let's talk about your goals and
Mm-hmm.
how you structure that so you
Mm-hmm.
have your strategy and your plan.
Yeah. So obviously I have coaches, which I think is really important. And then so I have a business coach who helps me create my strategy, or I do my strategy, and then we talk about it and we map it out into bite-size pieces over the year, so it isn't overwhelming. Then yeah, and then I have my social media coach, and we talk about my marketing plan and what information I want to get out, and then I can build it, and we kind of structure it. I kind of have the same structure or the same content pillars, but then I sort of build as I go along, and sometimes I tweak it depending on obviously the gram. And then I have obviously my, like, a visual goal book and plan.
This is
You.
amazing.
So this is my book of goals, and then I have my main words where I put believe, focus, and make it happen, is like my core words that I tend to have each year, because sometimes we all sometimes have that little bit of doubt in ourselves, and I think when you have these words and you look and you go back into what you do and chatting to people like yourself, you're like, no, you are doing this, it is happening, it is growing, so you need to believe in yourself. And I do go in myself, so I do go introverted when I suddenly have a bit of doubt, but I go back to the plan, I go back to the strategy, and I go back to all these things. If I have a wobble or a worry, and you just go look at your goals again. What have you achieved? Are you on the journey? Are you on track for those? And that really helps with that.
That's amazing. So what, can you tell me what's in your book? Can you tell me, like,
Yeah,
just give us like a little sneak peek?
so last year I have, like, it's really visual. So I had build my education. That was that was 2022, I think. So yeah, and then I have words like make it happen, dream, achieve. I had because we wanted to move house, so that was on the goals. Time with family and friends is like work-life balance is a massive thing for me, because I a lot of my family, I don't live near my family where I am, so it's always important to make time to go and see them and visit them, so that's really important. And then I've got dinner parties. And then obviously build the education, more experience of the industry. I want to learn more about the industry, because there's things that, again, I never thought I'd be where I am, knowing people like yourself, Sarah from Chalk, people like this. And I'm like, well, everything is accessible, and I think sometimes we can be so limited by, I don't know, area or what have you. But actually, it's not. I think it's all about just don't be afraid to put yourself out there and think outside the box. I think it's definitely key.
Yeah, I love that. I
Yeah.
don't think you give yourself enough credit, Rach. I think me and Sarah are really lucky to know you. We
Oh,
are. I'm so glad I know you and I can message you and pick your brain about things.
absolutely. And I think that's always been my motto through the whole thing. Sharing is caring. Like,
Yeah.
what's the good of all this knowledge and information if you can't share with people and people that you aspire to as well?
Mm. You
It's
are incredibly generous with your knowledge. You
mm,
are just even if you just went on your Instagram and had an hour or two of binging all your posts, you
mm,
would gain a free education,
yeah,
which is amazing
hmm
because you're running an education company
hmm
selling education courses, but
hmm
you're also giving a fair amount of your education to
yeah,
people for free.
hmm
And I mean, of course, that's good marketing, but also for people who can't afford education,
hmm
what an amazing free resource for them.
and I think as well it's about like giving back to the industry. I think I've I love the industry. I literally eat, sleep, breathe it. Like, it is, I've always said it's never a job for me, it's a passion, and it really is. And I think giving back, it just it just makes, I don't know, it just makes me happy to know that I'm helping people and giving other people joy and like just giving away nuggets. I think if that just helps one person grow their businesses, then I'm doing my job. I'm doing what I set out to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. So then circling back round to your goals
Yes.
that you and your book.
Yeah.
So once you've created that, because I
Yeah.
have done vision boards before, and
Yes.
then I've stuck them on my wall, and then the
hmm
blue tack has gone hard, and
Yeah.
they've dropped down the back of the wardrobe,
Yeah.
and I've
Yeah.
never seen them again until I move house and I
Yeah.
pull these vision boards out from behind my chest of drawers. So how do you how do you make these goals happen? Like, how do you keep yourself accountable?
I think it's, again, it's obviously having people to like kick me up the bum every now and then. But I think it's just little by little, like chip away at it. It Rome wasn't built in a day, and I've got a lot of friends who always say, Rachel, slow and steady, because that's again another part of my brain. I want it all and I want it yesterday, and that's another downside to ADHD. I have no patience. But I am I think that is the thing. I am getting round to it's good to do that because you're seeing slowly the benefit rather than rushing in head first and not seeing that. I'm now starting to realize I'm loving the journey and loving that build. And yeah, it's for me it's all about slowly catch your monkey.
I love that. I'm breaking it down into bite-sized chunks.
Bite-sized pieces.
So this
Realistic
is
stuff.
what
Sorry.
it's all right. So this is what you do with your business coach as well, then.
Yeah, and I have a brain dump board, so I have a strategy page on my spreadsheet. Actually, as I've got older, I love a spreadsheet, um, thanks to my business coach. Um, and I'll brain dump everything in there, and then I'll go, I want to do this, and she'll go, not yet. So I always need that person because I'm a big risk taker, so I will jump 4 feet first in and then go, oh, that didn't work. It's like, no, because you didn't take the baby steps, and the baby steps are what are key to get to the big goal. So for me, it's all, yeah, it's all those little things. The little things are just as important as the big things. And yeah.
I love that. So
Yeah.
small, simple steps.
Yeah, clear focus. Again, believe, focus, make it happen. The clear vision, your outcome, you know, what are your outcomes for this goal, and what are the little steps you need to take to get there.
That's amazing. Have you got any goals for 2024 that you can share? Is there anything new?
I'm grabbing my new in studio class.
Amazing.
And how I've done that is I've created an open diary, so it's learn at their leisure. So you can pick a date rather than me going, these are all my dates. It's an open calendar and they can choose the date that they want to do the class on rather than structuring it to a set date.
That's really helpful. That's really helpful for busy stylists and hairdressers.
Yeah.
What a helpful thing to do. That it's because I've done that before. I've gone on really wanted to do education and looked at
Yes.
the dates and gone, I can't do
No.
any of the dates. So that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and also like another thing for salons is a way of giving back is they can add their stylists for obviously a lesser cost. So they pay the first fee and then they can add them on for a lesser cost. So that's another add-on as well.
I'm excited about that. That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, can we go back into your story?
Yes.
Because you own a salon.
Yes.
Do you have anyone working in your salon, or have you ever had anyone working?
Yeah, I used to have staff. I used to have a team. And then obviously gradually as life changes and stuff, we got to lockdown because I'm a beauty therapist as well. So as obviously life happens, and then we went to lockdown, and then my last employee changed what they were doing. So I just thought, do you know what? I kind of feel like I loved working freelance. So I decided to just be me in my salon in the end. And I find, again, with the ADHD side, not knowing I had it back then, I find for me that works better, how I can think about things and structure days and make things a bit easier.
Without having to worry about other people and what they're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah. I
That's
think
amazing.
that is my clients always go, you've got this big salon. It's just you. And I was like, yes, but look at all this space.
Space for education. You were always meant to be an
Exactly.
educator.
Exactly. That's what I said. Like, you know, this will be spaces for models and all of that stuff. So I said, you know, keep your eyes peeled. I'll be launching the model days soon.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So you're with lockdown, with that last member of staff leaving.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in my experience, you from lockdown is probably when I really started to see you on social media.
Yeah.
So was that when your journey into Copper Queen education as it is now started?
Yes. Yeah. So I started obviously educating my clients on doing loads of lives and stuff, and then it was just one of my friends said, because I didn't have a social media coach back then, not until sort of probably the first lockdown, and one of my friends said, have you heard of Vivian Johns? And I was like, yeah, I have. She said, you need to do the classes. So I did social club, and almost it just literally blew my mind. And then I was like, oh, I love doing lives, and apparently that's quite a unique thing. People apparently don't like doing them. I was like, I love it. I'm all over that. It's like having an audience, but not having an audience. Like, because I always loved drama when I was at school. If I wasn't going to be a hairdresser, I'd love to have done acting or whatever, or singing or that side of stuff. But like, so that was kind of like my stage. I loved it. It was so much fun. And then from from there, and we started to dive deeper into understanding the industry, what we do, and then suddenly talking about niching and different, and I was like, oh, like, I just thought I just do coppers and reds, and I didn't realise, and then we were like looking through, and I was like, oh my god, we do, I do a lot of coppers and reds. Biff was like, yeah, oh my god, that's literally it. That's like your niche. And then that was it. From then I was like, wow. And then Copper Queen Education, it was just like, yeah, that's it. And I started from then, and then I started to build, what does this look like? What would it look like? How would I build it? And then the more I looked at all of my education, I started going through the science and stuff, and I was like, there's literally no education about copper science. Like, none. Like, totally none. And then I started to go more into the science. I started to research it. I was looking on like websites, like trying to build up this knowledge, and it literally blew my mind when I started to dive deeper into this and realizing what a chunk of education that we are all missing in our industry. It was like mind-blowing.
Yeah. Well, so we did have this conversation earlier, didn't we? That we have
Yes.
been along similar colour education paths. And
Yes.
what I was saying to you was, so I did a colour degree, colour
Yes.
specialist, and all the courses leading up to that. And then also a lot of other courses with some big names in the industry. And honestly, with copper hair colour, I may add base to neutralise a client's natural warmth. I may use a booster, but essentially, I'm still using the tubes of colour.
Yes.
I'm not mixing bespoke copper mixes for my clients. I would neutralise them a little bit. I'd water them down a little bit with base so that they're
Yeah.
less bright, or I would add some mixed home to make them more bright. But I'm not really messing around with the tones
No.
of the coppers. And that's after thousands of pounds of colour education.
Yeah.
So help me out, and anybody else who's in the same position as me.
Yeah.
Where do I start?
Oh, so you start at the science behind copper hair. Like, it's understanding how the pigments relate in natural copper hair. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to replicate. Whether it be bright, light, dark, any of the copper spectrum, we're trying to replicate those pigments. So yes, okay, we might be lifting out, but technically you're putting back in a colour that already is pre-blended with base. So therefore you're recreating natural coppers again. So it's when you're formulating for copper, we need to be thinking, like you're saying, pigments. You're not thinking bases. You're trying to think more pigments, more formulas, more colour wheel, rather than thinking that tube. You need to be thinking pigments and tones and hues. That is it, not bases. Technically, you're trying to remove that. So that is where. So yeah, that is it. It's understanding that science. Sarah and I from Chalk, we're talking about this all the time, like how it is so different, and it has different pigments to natural hair. So understanding those is going to help you formulate for coppers. So yeah, that's the starting crux of it.
Understanding, so not thinking about is it how dark or light it is, it's understanding whether it's more red or whether it's more gold, or
Yes.
whether there's, which I suppose with the warm colours, people would say, well, you would think, oh, well, I do know that. But what about when it comes to adding in
other
more
pigments.
cooler tones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's understanding when you're like, again, it's understanding your guest. What is their DOP, their distribution of pigment? Like, are they naturally a warm? Are they naturally a cool? So you can still go in and use greens and ashes, but it's what that end result is. Like, that's why swatching is so important when working with coppers, more so than any other colour, because that formula is paramount to your end result. So mixing in, knowing what your brand's background is, because everyone is different, because that also has an impact. It's knowing what the end goal is. If your guest is very warm and you're wanting to soften it, then we know if we get some lift, it's going to be warm anyway. But how warm? You know, how warm is their base going to go? Are they going to get root glow? If they are, is it down to pigment? Is it down to oxidant? So, and what actual product you're using? Is it a demi? Is it a permanent? You know, it's familiarizing yourself with all of your toolkit, not just tones as well.
Right. That's amazing advice. Thank you so much. That's
You're
great.
welcome.
So let's circle back round to the social media,
Mm-hmm.
because I was just thinking then that you had all of this amazing knowledge. So
Yeah.
here's a problem a lot of people have. I have
Yeah.
all this amazing knowledge. I'm an absolute specialist in what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I'm not getting the clients I want,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm not reaching the audience I want as an educator.
Yes.
Whereas someone else who maybe isn't as good is.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you have that special source of you're incredibly knowledgeable, you're an incredibly good educator, and you manage to reach people with this information. Like
Mm-hmm.
you inspire so many people with it. So if someone is struggling to get their message out or to get the clients they want,
Mm-hmm.
what advice would you give them for
Be
social media?
okay. I would say get your branding on point. So all your message is consistent. If obviously they're niching, then that's all you talk about, like constantly. It's helping to show people what those problems are and that you've been there. Like you're going, right, I've done this because I've had this, and I know because I've been there, I've had those problems. So share your worries, share your problems, because people will then associate with you and they'll align with you, because they'll be like, oh, you're not always showing all of the, you know, the fluffy stuff. You're giving them a bit of like, oh, this is where I was, but this is where I've got to now. You're showing the journey. It's creating that journey, but being consistent with what you're sharing and having a bit of fun with it as well. Don't make it rigid. Like, you know, I love my Friday dance. That was just a random thing that happened, but it's just throwing in a little bit of fun. And I quite like doing the little voiceover things. They started to make me laugh, but then it's just evolving. You don't have to just stay rigid to what you're doing, but the message has to be consistent.
I love that. So consistent message, but change your delivery and
Yeah.
find what's fun for you.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting, actually, because there's a lot of people who would be terrified of dancing on a
Mm.
Friday. So many people would be scared of that. There would be so many people who aren't maybe great at taking videos or pictures of hair, that's maybe their thing. They'd rather dance in front of the camera than take a video or a picture of a
Yeah.
hair. There's so many people who would maybe look at people on Instagram like you and think, I could never do that. And that makes sense that you have a background in drama
Yeah.
and you can show up and perform on social media. That's amazing. But I've been playing around with some content as well, which I took from following January goals, following some fitness influencers, and they don't video themselves, or if they do, they only video a tiny little bit, but then they just show what they're doing in their day.
Yeah.
Which then you could do that with little close-up 2-second shots of hair.
Yeah.
It's so broad, isn't it?
Yes, and it's not overcomplicating it. Like we've all learned everything is content. So this swatching thing, like I took from swatching and physically doing the swatches to then suddenly painting the swatches is so visually, what's the word, satisfying, because people are just watching the motion and getting knowledge from that. And it doesn't have to be long, short, sharp, things like that I never would have thought. I always thought, face of the camera, da 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 da. And some of my best stuff is me just painting these swatches, because people are like, wow, what is that? And like the Watch Me Swatch, like people don't realize that we get inspiration around us all day. Like we're looking at stuff and we're visually seeing these colours around us 24/7, but we forget. So having these little things just help. Like what's going to help your guest remember how to shampoo their hair properly? What is going to help your guest to remember to maintain their copper colours? It's all of these little things that play a part. You might think, oh, they know it, but we don't. We all forget, and we've got a new audience every day.
Yeah. And it could be something that if you're talking to clients, you could have said to your client 4 weeks ago, make sure you don't wash your hair in really hot water.
Yeah.
And they forget, but then they would be on your Instagram and they would see the social media post saying, don't forget to not wash your hair in hot water. And they go, oh, and it's just a reminder. So even if you've told people already, people forget things. We get busy, don't we?
Yeah. And that's where that consistency thing comes in. And it really is. And like we say, little nuggets just help people, like me the other day shaking up the Fab Pro and sticking it on the side. And they're like, whoa, what's that? It might be something new that's come in and you're like, oh, this is amazing. And you might just squeeze it out onto your hand.
Yeah.
You might not even be in front of the camera. It might just be that.
Yeah.
Hold your palm out and squeezing it. It's just how our brains work. And it is just taking in those little bits of little key information.
I love that. I think if it's okay with you, it would be quite good to maybe link your business coach and your social media coach along with your education.
Yes.
When we put this content out, that would be amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
So, the last thing I want to ask you about is niching.
Yes.
Because we are talking about niching, but this could be quite a new thing for some people.
Yeah.
So what is a niche?
Yes.
And how could people find their own?
Okay, so
like how did you find yours?
So niching is that one thing that gets you up in the morning that you're excited to do every single day, 50 million times in a year. It gets you up in the morning, you're excited to do it, and you're like, oh my God, I literally love doing this. And you want to know it inside out, or you know it inside out, back to front, upside down. And you just can't wait to get in the salon to do it that day. That is your niche. And everything you do, your message is around that niche.
That's amazing. So you found yours because you were doing so much copper.
So much copper, so much red. Like But what's funny is, like, I do my niching, but people forget that it isn't just all coppers and reds. I have guests come to me who don't want to be warm or copper, but their hair consistently goes that colour. So I do a lot of people who are naturally white haired, and as we know, their hair fades orangey because of the keratin and in their hair, and it goes orangey. So I neutralize the warmth. So I call them copper conversions.
I love that.
So it's sometimes we think niche, we think it's one dimensional, and it's not.
Yeah, that's really good. I heard I've got an interesting soundbite. There's this guy I follow called Rory Vadum.
Mm?
His whole thing is about niching.
Yeah.
And he said if you can't work out what your niche is,
Mm-hmm.
think about the person you were 10 years ago
Yeah.
and what they were struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
That is your niche, because
Yes.
that is the person you can help. Because 10 years ago, you
Yeah.
is not who you are now. And
No.
just share what you did
Yeah.
to get from that you to
Mm-hmm.
this you now. So if, again with copper,
Yeah.
say the journey could have been that you were struggling with coppers 10 years
Yes.
ago, and this is how you got to becoming a copper expert. So,
Yes.
which I love that. Like
Yeah.
that as well, I love with
Absolutely.
niching, as well
Yeah.
as the, because some people actually don't have one thing that they love
No.
doing
No.
every
See,
day.
I like to balayage as well, but I might convert it into a copper balayage. But
Yeah.
I still love doing teasy lights, baby lights. You know, I still melt things. But this is what I mean. It's not one dimensional. Yes, I do a lot of those tones, but I might balayage with coppers. I might balayage with a high lift tint. You know, it's all relevant, and you still need to understand and learn everything in the industry, or like in colour. But then that's how we convert it into what we do. And so it doesn't mean that you're just learning one thing. So I'll still go on bleaching classes. I'll still send myself on classes that are still relevant to what I need to know. So it's all still very open. So I know people think, oh no, if I niche, then I'm never going to do a brunette again. I'm never going to do a blonde again. You're like, you will, but just the way you do it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's amazing. So you can choose to niche. It doesn't mean it has to be constricting. It just
No.
means that you use that, which cleverly, when you do your neutralizing warmth, that's
Yeah.
so clever because you are using all your copper knowledge.
Yeah.
And if my hair was going really warm when it
Mm-hmm.
faded, of course I would want someone with that specialist knowledge to fix
Yeah.
it for me.
Yeah.
That's a,
It is. It's amazing. And now I get clients who come to me who go, I want to be copper, but I don't want it red copper. I want a gold copper. Then you do the gold copper, and then they'll go, that made me too light. I now don't want to be that colour. I just want to be an orange copper. So it's all relevant, you know, it's all, I'll still use ashes, I'll still use greens, I'll still use violets, I'll still use all of these pigments, but to the way I understand colour. And actually a lot of it is transferable into colour work anyway. So it's not just completely generic. You can transfer it, which is amazing.
that's so good. Rachel, I feel like I've learned so much. I could talk to you or I will now.
Yes.
I'll just keep talking to you all the time.
Yes.
You've been so informative. You've been so helpful. I think what
Mm-hmm.
you've given today for free
Mm-hmm.
is amazing. And I think it will affect so many people and change the way so many people feel about what they're doing in the
Yeah.
hair salon.
Yeah.
And I mean, it'll probably, anyone who's not a hairdresser listen to this would get a ton of value out of it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
You're welcome. The other thing I did want to just say is packaging your services is 100% key as well. That will help grow your business 100%.
So by packaging, is
Mm-hmm.
that rather than a half head highlights
Yeah,
or a root tin,
yeah.
how would you package it then?
So all of the service, so it's based on time as opposed to based on service. So if something takes you 4 hours, that would be like your top package. If something took you 3, that would be your lowest package. And then you would assess what services you could do, and that is where you place that within that category. And it would include, so mine includes all my bonders. It includes if I'm doing my copper work from the first time and it's a complete transformation, they'll get their home maintenance to go away with. So it's all packaged within their service. So they there's no hidden agenda, there's no additional add-ons, and they just know that what package is theirs, and then unless we make any changes, that's where it stays. And it creates a really consistent journey to your guests and the flow through the salon. And the only addition would be their consultation on top.
That's so helpful. So what would you name a package? Would you name a package like, how would you name your packages?
So example, so like my first package is the copper journey. So it's the first step, whether it's roots, global, or it's just few packets through, it's the start, it's helping them to evolve into it. Then it's copper creatives. So that's where you might do balayage, or you might do color blocking. It's anything that's a bit more advanced. Then, like for more intense work, maybe creative color correction, anything like that. That would be your copper conversions. So whether you need to remove box color, or you need to convert somebody who needs quite a lot of services to get them to where they need to be, that would then be the top package.
I really like that. So if someone came to me and said, I don't know, I want to go lighter. And so instead of saying to them, okay, so here's what you're going to need. You're going to need a balayage, and you're going to need a toner, and you're going to need a bond builder, and you've got some grey, so I need to do a root tint. Instead of bombarding them with all that, I would say, great, the package for you is Copper Creatives.
Absolutely.
And then that I know, I love that. That's such clever marketing, isn't it?
It's
simple.
really,
Client.
it's really simple. It's really clear. And in the consultation, you just talk to them about the steps then. So what you're getting within this, and then they see the value in what they're getting. So you talk to them and you say, right, this is this. We're going to start here. We're going to give you root coverage. You're going to have a balayage. You're going to have then it melted with a toner. But through all of this, I'll be using my bond builders. So it's going to give your hair the integrity. Obviously, then I do my strand tests and all of that jazz and patch test. And you're set. My guests love it. They love it because they feel like it. Well, the last consultation I did, she said, I've literally never had a consultation like that in my life.
Aww,
And she said, literally, I've come away with like knowing every step of the way what's going to happen to my hair. And again, that's part of my ADHD. I like to talk through everything. And my guests love it. They like it, just makes them feel really special. Like they're like, wow. Plus I work one-on-one. I don't have anyone in between my clients. So it's a really lovely journey and process. And having something like that helps you to market your business different to any other business in the area.
That's clever.
And that's
So
what I
then
also teach on my education.
Oh, amazing. And so you've also, presumably, you've costed out all of
Yes.
these packages so
Yeah.
that you are making a
Yes.
proper hourly rate.
Yes.
And so that's really, so if you've worked out all the costings, and it wouldn't have to be 3. If someone had a much more
It could
diverse
be
clientele, it could
4.
have Yeah.
4 or 5. You know,
Yeah.
you might have, so I do have another package, but I don't name that one. Like, so I do have some auburn hair clients who don't have colour, but they have the bond builder. So I have that as a cut and blow dry package. So they've specifically come in to enhance their coppers with the bond builder. So literally, I have that as a set package as well. So it's, your list is endless. Obviously, you don't want 50 billion packages, but it's how your business works for you. So me saying this is how I work, but that's for my business and my clients. So they might have 6 or 7. So they might do complete color correction, and that side of things, or focus a lot on vivid. So might need a specific package for that. So that's where I help people within my classes to grow that. And I actually have a format in my manual that people will go away with.
That's incredible. That's so valuable to know, to help actually make money out of these things.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's an interesting statistic. I think it's something like 46% of salons are just breaking even. I butcher statistics, okay? So
Yeah.
that may be wrong. But it's something along the lines of something like 46% of salons are just breaking even. And I think 20% or something like that are making a loss. That's
Wow.
just goes to show the problems we have with actually making money
Yes.
in our industry. So
Yeah.
something like that would be so helpful, wouldn't it, for people?
Exactly. And it's understanding like the process, having the consultation process there, having, understanding the breakdown behind how to package, and understanding what your value is and your hourly rate is and where you see yourself. Because I think, I've never done it on area. I've done it by research, looking at costings, looking at prices, looking at those things are so key to having that growth in your business.
That's amazing. Thank you.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much for that. I'm so glad you added that in, because
Sorry.
that is so important.
It is.
That's so important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So my final question, okay,
Yes.
is imagine for a moment that your Instagram is deleted. Your entire body of work is just gone. Yeah?
Yeah.
Everything's disappeared. And you have one thing that your key message that you can leave to people to help them, like that you think is most important. What would your key message be? What would be that one thing?
Keep yourself educated. Education is the backbone of everything that we do. And the way I look at it is everything is always moving forward and evolving. And if we just stand still, it will become stagnant and quite rigid. Whereas if we think about it in hair context, hair's fluid, and we need to be moving with that and understanding and keep moving with what is going on, because science changes, things move on, things evolve, and if we don't evolve with it, then we'll just be stuck.
That's incredible. Rachel, thank you so much for talking to me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's been such a pleasure, and I feel like I really want to talk to you again about consultation now.
Yes! Oh my days, 100%.
We're going to have to do a part 2, Rachel.
Yes, I would love that.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you so much.
Thank you.
I'll speak to you soon.
Yes.
Bye.
Speak to you soon. Bye.